What's up, everybody? Cole Sands here. Just got back from my first Bassmaster Open of the year. It was on the Kissimmee chain of lakes, and I walked away with a 10th place finish. I'm super excited, man. I'm so blessed, so thankful to have that finish, especially after the practice I had. But I'm just going to do a quick recap, kind of my thought process going into the tournament. Kind of what I did as the tournament developed, how it worked out, and just kind of run down the baits I use in my setups. So I got there about 4.5 days before the tournament started. I want to make sure I had plenty of practice. It's a place I've never been, and it looked very overwhelming on the map, and it was just as overwhelming, if not more, when I got there. I mean, it's a series of 4 different lakes. You got Toho, where we put in at, Cypress, Hashnahal, and then Kissimmee. And because it was so overwhelming, I decided I'm going to spend most of my time on Toho in practice. I did spend one practice day on Cypress and Hashnahal, but so I got there. We got there when it was one of the biggest cold fronts Florida's had in several years. The day, my first practice day, the high was like 43. The wind was blowing 30 out of the north, and it was just not really good conditions, And what I kind of figured, if I can get in a good area, where I can get a couple bites in these cold front conditions, as it warms up, it'll probably be really good as the tournament starts. As long as these fish don't leave and go to, start to spawn, I think a lot of these areas will be good. And me personally, I'm an offshore fisherman more than a shallow guy. I do love shallow fishing, don't get me wrong, but I really love offshore fishing because I feel like I can find a group of fish. It'll be a little bit more consistent, and man, it just happens so fast offshore. So my first practice day, I kind of stayed close to the ramp. I don't think it was quite a full day, so I stayed close to the ramp. I really marked all the grass lines, and I actually did catch a limit the first day of practice, which was as tough as it was for most people. I was pretty happy just to have a limit. It didn't weigh much, but I got a couple bites in a couple areas that really proved to be key later in the week. Next couple days of practice, that cold front was still there. The water dropped to like 48, 49, which is freezing cold in Florida. But it was really tough, man. I stayed in a house with a couple other people fishing the tournament, and we were all just getting 2 or 3 bites a day. So it was a very, very, very tough practice. But the weather was starting to warm, and it looked like the first day of the tournament we'd finally have a nice, pretty day. So I practiced. I found some fish in Cypress. I found some fish on the low end of Toho, just here and there. But the size didn't seem to be really good. In practice, the biggest fish I caught was a 3-pounder. So man, it's the night before the tournament. I'm like, man, what am I going to do? I'm not really on anything. My best practice day was literally within a couple hundred yards of the ramp, and I'm like, well, I got, I'm going to have 8.5 hours to fish tomorrow. The bite's so tough, I just need to maximize my time. So my game plan, I said I'm gonna start close to the ramp. I'm gonna fish where I got a couple bites in practice. Now they weren't big, but still, it was the only place I had some bites. So first day of the tournament, I roll out there. I start the day throwing a Yozuri 3DB jerkbait. Man, I've talked about this thing so much, and that color too. I think that's the pearl shad. I picked it up, throwing it on my 6.6 medium action Witch Doctor tackle rod, Shaman series, 14-pound fluorocarbon. I went a little bit bigger just so I could rip it out of that grass. Grass was really thick. I was fishing offshore hydrilla. And first thing that morning, I catch one over 3 pounds. I'm like, yeah, that's a really good one. I catch another keeper. I lose a keeper. It wasn't hooked real good right at the boat. And I was like, man, I'm not going to catch a limit today because the fishing was so tough. But I kind of rebounded from that. I was super excited to have a couple of good keepers in the boat, and then I was about to make a little run. I had a place I thought I could catch a limit of 12 inches, just try to kind of salvage my tournament and get some good points. And just something told me, is like, man, I need to stop on this one grass line. There wasn't really any boats around that particular grass line that day, and I went down into practice and I caught like 2.5-pounders. They're little fish, but I actually had a couple bites down it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull up to it. I'm going to go down it, and let's see what happens. And so it was about 11 o'clock. I had 2 fish, like I said. I pick up just a golden shiner chatterbait, throwing a Gambler Lures Komodo on the back. Just kind of a little bulky profile for a chatterbait. I like it a lot. I think it's something you can really hone in on when you're ripping it out of grass. I put it on 20-pound T7 fluorocarbon from Yozuri. The stuff's strong as all get out, and I wanted bigger lines so I could really rip it out of that grass. My rod setup was crucial. That was a 7.2 medium heavy Sermon Series rod. It's half glass, half graphite. That graphite really allowed me to snap it out of that grass. And I was fishing around a lot of boats. I mean, there's boats kind of just south of me. And I had kind of one little area to myself, but the reason I think I caught them and the other people didn't is because I was throwing this thing up in there and I was reeling it really fast and snapping it out of that grass, and I'd kill it. And it was 100% a reaction bite. The fish didn't want to, you can tell the fish were not in a biting mood. I mean, I tried dragging a worm, I threw a drop shot in the grass. I mean, anything you could imagine trying to get a bite, and they will not touch it. But what happened, I pulled to that grass line, and within about 20 minutes, I put pretty much the majority of my weight in the boat, besides the first one I caught that morning. I put 4 fish between 4 and 5.5 pounds in the boat, all within, I don't know, 30 minutes. And that was all throwing this bait, digging it, letting it bury up in that grass, snapping it out, just reeling it real quick, and I mean, they'd hit it. I had that. I knew that was a really good bag. It hasn't been taking a whole lot to win down there recently. And then I kind of felt bad, so my co-angler hadn't had a bite. I give my co-angler this chatterbait. He put he caught like 2 4s and a 2 pretty quick off the chatterbait, and he was sitting in 4th place after day 1. But so yeah, that's pretty much what made my tournament. I had that big day 1. I really thought I had them figured out. I thought it was just a reaction deal, just getting that chatterbait and that jerkbait buried in the grass and ripping it out. That definitely seemed to be how every one of my bites came. And I came in the first day, I was sitting in 2nd place. I had 21 pounds, 15 ounces. Extremely blessed, extremely thankful. I mean, all I can say was thank you, God, at the end of the day, because, man, I was not on nothing. And I kind of carried that weight the rest of the day. Like I said, I wasn't really on them. But the second day I go out there, right off the bat, I catch a 6-pounder ripping that chatterbait out of the grass. And I'm like, this is going to happen. This is my tournament to win. And that second day, I think a lot of people saw where I caught him the first day. There's a lot of big names in the area as well that I was sharing the water with, and it got really, really, really crowded that second day. I mean, it was hard to have just a 30-yard stretch. I watched a boy catch a 5 in front of me. I watched another guy catch a couple 3 to 4 pounders behind me, and I was kind of boxed in. No excuses. What happened that second day? It continued to warm, and a lot of the fish went to the bank. I probably should have went up there and looked a little bit more, but I mean, needless to say, I had 3 fish for 9 pounds the second day. Extremely happy to make the cut. I worked my butt off for those 3 fish. And that last day, I saw where they announced the Classic was going to be in Knoxville, and I said, you know what? I said, I want to go make a gamble. I didn't even practice on Kissimmee. It's a pretty long run. You got to lock. And that last day, I said, this is a really good shot to make the Classic. I decided to make the run. I made like an hour run to Kissimmee. And it was not going on. There's shiner fishermen all around me. Nobody was catching them. And I said, man, I got to go back and try to salvage the day. Ran back to close to the weigh-in with like an hour left. Had caught all my 3 keepers that last day right there next to the weigh-in. Lost a 4th keeper that, would have jumped me up a couple places right at the boat. But, I mean, all in all, a great week. I was really nervous about this tournament. I'd never been there before. Florida's always a little bit scary. Just because there's so many variables, but extremely blessed, extremely thankful to come out of there. That last day, the 3 fish I did weigh in, they all came on the jerkbait, and it's something I really wish that last day I would just stay close to the ramp and thrown this more. The same thing, I was twitching it down in the grass. As soon as I feel the grass, snap it up, and I mean, the rod setup was key. I was throwing a 6:6 to 1 gear ratio, kind of a slow gear ratio on my jerkbait, a 7:3 to 1 gear ratio on my chatterbait, just because I was trying to really rip it out a little bit faster. Like I said, 14-pound T7 fluorocarbon on the jerkbait, 20-pound on the chatterbait, and that was my setup. But it's a great week, great momentum, great points. My next open is March 31st through April 2nd on Lake Cherokee. It's a place I've done good in the past. I've never really spent that much time on it that time of year, but it should be a great tournament, man. It's a lake that it's got a special place in my heart. So thank you everybody for all the texts, all the prayers. I can't thank y'all enough, and I'll catch y'all down the road. Thanks, guys.